Hey everybody, it's me, the Zen Witch, here with another installment in my Art of Ritual, and today I'm going to be talking about the elements, and specifically the elements of water and earth, so the receptive elements. And I'm doing, it's kind of a bright day, so I feel like I'm doing my Meet the Beatles thing here, kind of shadowy, but I don't care. Anyway, um, if you've watched my video on air and fire, I you'll get a good segue into water and earth. And I made a comment there about trying to move away from gendered language as far as magical practices go. Classically, we would call air and fire masculine and water and earth feminine, but I think it is much more neutral and inclusive and accurate to call air and fire the active elements and water and earth the receptive elements. And you'll notice I'm even staying away from active passive because passive has some connotations there that I don't really like. Receptive is another thing. Okay. And we all can, I think, if we were putting this out to the general public, and saying, which would you rather be, active or passive? Well, most people will say active, and you see passive as sort of a negative, victim-y sort of thing. Receptive is another thing entirely. So I'm trying to get away from sexist language and stuff like that. So, talking about the receptive elements of water and earth. And I have, I actually didn't bring my chalice over here. It's back there somewhere down by my altar. I'll go and get it and show it to you in a little bit. But what I have here is my water bowl, and this is water and earth. I don't know why this looks like it's crooked. It's bugging me. See, this is my Virgo brain. I can be very perfectionistic about things, but I choose. I choose when to let that happen. So this bowl has ocean water in it, and when you're doing ritual, and the beginning is consecrating the elements, and you do a thing where it's like, I want to consecrate the air and fire, and we burn a little bit of incense because that's the combination of those elements, and then we bless the water, we purify the water, and we consecrate the salt. And you purify water because it's an imperfect thing, unless even if it's coming out of your water purifier, you want to purify it, consecrate it to your purpose. It is to my purpose. So you can get chemically pure water out of a filter, but you want energetically pure water to use in your ritual. So you consecrate, you cleanse and bless the water, and then the salt is seen as already being pure, because salt, which is the element of earth, salt purifies things. If you buy a new crystal, you bury it in sea salt so that the salt can draw off. It draws off impurity, but it doesn't take the impurity on itself. So salt is seen as already pure. So all you have to do is bless that and thank it, and then you put the water and salt together. I always put in 3 pinches, made Mother Crone, and then I put in a 4th for the unnamed and the unknowable. But this is actual ocean water, and anytime anybody I know goes to the ocean, it's kind of a standard request, bring me back some water if it's at all possible. So I have a kind of a constant supply of ocean water that I use. One could argue that ocean water these days can be anything but pure. I mean, it's not going to be pure chemically anyway. The ocean is a soup. But considering what we're doing to it, there can be an awful lot of other things. So, of course, you do want to bless it energetically as well. So let's start talking about water as an element. And there's going to be a little bit of rambling here because I spend so much time on the air and fire because I have such an issue with the way they are traditionally taught. But water and earth, I don't have that issue with, so I haven't spent as much time thinking about it. So you get to hear me think out loud. So let's look at the nature of water. We can survive without water for not very long. We can survive without food much longer than we can survive without water. Water in the classic elements represents your emotional self, your emotional body, how you react to life. So, what are emotions but reaction? They are information for us. So, and they're instinctive. Water represents the instinct. So while fire represents the will, which is a conscious thing, consciousness, fire represents consciousness. Water is the unconscious. It is how things hit us and what we do in response. So there can be something that happens that intellectually you wouldn't think about, being an emotional thing, but you have a big emotional reaction to it. And what that is your unconsciousness at work, and your receptivity and your instinct at work. So we can go into a situation that intellectually looks like it's safe and ordinary and normal and stuff, but we have a strong emotional reaction, and this can be letting us know that our instincts are sensing something that's not exactly safe. So water is that underground stream, and water seeks its own level. Wherever you are, whatever you put it in, it's going to level. So you can tell, that's why we use a bubble in a little thing of water to see if something's level or not, because water is the great leveler. What does that say? Emotions are the great equalizer as far as being human. It's what makes us human. We feel, we have emotional reactions to things, and we're not just on automatic pilot. So while fire separates us from the other animals as far as will goes, consciousness and will, water does as well, because we're not just having mechanical reactions. I'm going to react to this with this behavior. We have this whole set of things that we process through. And I'm actually going to take that back. This doesn't separate us from the animals, because we know more and more and more as we start paying attention how deeply animals feel. The internet is abundant with videos of animals grieving over a lost partner, a lost human companion, over, loss of their habitat, over, environmental impacts and the things that cause us to experience emotion as well. They do as well. So water is the great equalizer, maybe across species. It represents connection and healing. So you think about, when you're internalizing this, think about the blood that pumps through your veins here, and physical sensitivity that we have, like, the moon pulls on the tides, it pulls on us too, because we are, what do they say in Star Trek, bags of mostly water. And the emotions that we have are our common human experience, regardless of our upbringing, of our resources, of our income, of our educational level, regardless of any of those things, of our status in life. We all have emotional reactions to things. We all feel. We all want to feel love and to feel loved, and we all want to feel happiness, and we all feel pain and grief and trauma and all of those things. So it really is a great leveler and equalizer. We all want the same things emotionally as beings on this planet. So water is also healing. Think about when you're really, really thirsty. If you've ever been truly thirsty, and boy, I hope you never are. I had an experience when I was a kid of going fishing with an uncle, and I was 9. And we didn't take anything with us but beer. And so we were out there. This is in Florida. We're out there on the Gulf and fishing, and it was hot, and I was thirsty, and I kept saying, I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty, I'm thirsty. And there was nothing to be done about it, because we were like on this freaking causeway in Tampa. And by the end of the day, by the time we went, I was parched. I was frantic. It was horrible. I mean, my mouth was bone dry. And that was only over a few hours. I can't imagine what profound dehydration must feel like. But I also remember an ice cream truck came by and I kicked up a major fuss until they flagged it down and got something for me to drink. And the sensation of that liquid hitting my mouth, and I'm sure it wasn't water, it had to have been pop or something. But the sensation of that fluid hitting my mouth was just heavenly, absolutely heavenly. And that's kind of, the sense of healing. I go through the same thing when I have terrible sinus problems and I rinse my sinuses out, and it's the most glorious feeling. So, water, number one, it gives us empathy with each other, and it can help us understand how someone else is feeling, so that it does affect fire. When I was talking in the fire video about the consequences of our actions, and the which mistake would you rather make trick. So look at the air and fire video if you want to learn that trick, and you really should. It's at the end of that video. We also consider how it's going to make us feel and how it might feel to other people when we choose to take an action. So it gives us empathy with each other. It gives us connection with each other, and provides us with healing energy. And I'm sure there's more to say about that. I'm going to move on to earth and probably go back and forth a lot. So earth-wise, and I have here the crystal that I use most often in doing magical work, when I do readings, stuff like that. This beautiful crystal that I can't even remember where I got. I was trying to remember if someone gave it to me, or I think I purchased it, and it was one of those I got to save up for it things. I don't know how much you can see. There's an actual little rainbow doorway in this crystal right in here. There. So it's an amazing crystal. It's just awesome. So what is earth? Earth is pardon me, let me fix this here. Oh, good grief. This one. There. Earth is the active, passive, or active, receptive principle. Earth is manifestation. Earth is reality. So the other thing I have here is a black tourmaline crystal, which is like the most grounding of stones to me. It absorbs negativity. It seriously grounds. It's really powerful. My daughter bought this one for me last Christmas, and it sits at the base of my altar. It's the foundation of my altar. It is the footing of everything here. So earth is manifest reality. When we talked about air, we were talking about ideas, starting off something with an idea and an inspiration. The completion of that wheel through fire and water then is earth, when something comes to manifest reality. What does manifest reality mean? It means I can put my hand to it. I can hold it in my hand. I can see it. I can perceive it with my senses, not just my feelings, my senses. I can see it, I can taste it, I can touch it, I can hear it, I can smell it. That's manifest reality. And that's what the earth element represents. It is literally your body. It is the physical part of you, physical reality in every form. So, and there's not an awful lot to say about it because this one's obvious. This one we don't have to get esoteric and symbolic with. This is earth. Everything that I ate, everything I've been eating makes this. It grows in the ground, it goes in here, it makes this. And some of it comes out the other end. So, earth is obvious. It's easy. It's easy to understand the earth element. The way I use crystals, this one is my grounding crystal. If I'm ever flying off or having horrible anxiety attacks, or even in meditation, I will take this crystal and set it like at my root chakra. So if I'm lying down, it's like in the V of my crotch, right there. If I'm sitting on the floor, I will just set it, right at my root chakra. And it helps to ground when I am draining off the excesses that I don't need. And even at the end of ritual, when I'm grounding, which is giving back the extra energy, you keep everything that you need, but you give back the extra energy that you womped up for spell work. It's great to send it through something like a black tourmaline crystal, because that cleanses it then energetically again. So you're not sending gunk back to the earth, although she loves our garbage. That's what compost is. The earth can take the worst that we have to offer. It can take ick and rot. And let's talk about natural rot. When things are rotten and horrible and would hurt us to eat it, the earth says, yum, 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 I can make that into really good growing things. Just let me have it. So I use it that way when I'm doing spell work. And, I pick this crystal up and right away I feel it humming in my hand. When I'm doing spell work, I will use a crystal as a focuser, or maybe even a grid to focus. I have a whole bunch of crystal points that I bought for a project that I never really did the project. And I think I'll do some videos on crystal grids for you with them all. But the earth element, when you're working magic, so let's back up a second here. I've talked about air being inspiration, fire being taken action. The next thing is water is where we emotionally invest. And in my mind, commitment, you don't really get commitment without water. I mean, if you've got an ironclad will and you are an incredibly disciplined person, so somebody with a rockin' Saturn, you don't really commit to something unless you bring in that water element, that regardless of my feelings, I'm not going to follow my feelings, I am committing. I'm going to invest my emotions in this as well. So just taking action on something is one thing, but when you invest your emotions, when your happiness hinges on seeing this thing through, is when you get to true commitment, in my opinion. And then when you take action, also, you start to get the receptive end. I take an action on this, and now I'm having a reaction to the actions I'm taking, and that helps guide you through. So I'm taking actions on a project, and I'm heading in this direction, and something doesn't feel right. It's not making me happy. This is boring, or this is frustrating, or those emotions are a feedback loop. So they're going to let you know, am I heading in the right direction? And those can help you adjust the actions that you're taking. So this is where fire and water, the active and the receptive really work together as the two dynamic elements. Fire and water are sort of like the purest of those two elements. When we do the great rite, we're dealing with fire in the blade and water or wine in the chalice. And then when you get to earth, you start to see the manifestation. So this is a feedback loop too. When you see the manifestation, is this what I was after? Is this what I wanted to manifest? And then we can kind of work backwards into, adjusting our will and adjusting our choices and the actions that we've taken. When you are creating something, when you're doing spell work in order to kick off a project, and this is a brand new idea, we're going to start in the east with the element of air and start working our way through that way. The inspiration is the first thing. When we're dealing with a problem, when we're working a spell in order to deal with a problem, it helps for me to start in the north with the element of earth. And of course, it'd be opposite in the southern hemisphere. So, y'all fix that. I'm lecturing to my choir in the northern hemisphere, but it helps for me to start in the north with how things are, because when you fully accept the reality of the way things are, then it becomes very clear what needs to be changed. As long as you're in denial about the way things actually are, and you're like, no, everything's going to be great, you don't fully accept the reality, so you don't have access to all the parts of it that can be worked on. So it's good to start in the north and say, what is the reality of this situation? Look at it from all the senses, in great physical detail. Here's the reality. Here's what's manifesting. And then we go into the air with the ideas of how to change this. What do I really want? When I look at reality, let's compare that with what I really want. And then we start to see what can be adjusted. As far as tools go, again, this is, the salt and water that you want to bless yourself with. And I will show you too, kind of like a genuflection, except I don't kneel. And it's forehead, left hip, right shoulder, left shoulder, right hip, forehead. That makes the pentacle. So forehead, right hip, or forehead, left hip, right shoulder, right hip, forehead. So that's a way to do it. You can do forehead and then your feet and your hands, forehead, foot, hand, foot, forehead, and make a big pentacle. When I'm doing a group ritual and we're blessing each other, that's what I will do, is the big pentagram. When I'm blessing myself, it's a little cumbersome, so I just do the hips and shoulders. So there's this, and then when you're, cast the circle and you go around and sprinkle, you asperge. And I want to say that I misspoke when I was talking about changing language and not using smudge anymore, because that is Native American spirituality, and this is not. Asperging, someone corrected me, it's been a long time since I've been trained and used these words. So asperging is actually the water and salt. Sensing is the fire and air. So smoke cleansing or sensing is that. This is asperging. And you can, the word expurgate, so to purge, is the water and earth. But then there's the tool of the chalice, and the tool of the chalice comes in when we are enacting the great rite. So the statement of the creative principle for human beings, which is, the sexual act, so the symbolic sexual act of the athame going into the chalice. And here's the thing with the air and fire thing. If we are calling wands fire, why don't we use a wand for the great rite rather than an athame? It's the water and fire together. So that's the end of the sentence for me. But anyway, the chalice comes in at that place of great rite where we are really making the statement of how magic happens. And then we go into the celebration part of circle, where we do cakes and wine, or beer and cookies, or whatever you do for your celebration meal. And the chalice is shared. So this is, again, that connection, that community. And the tool of the chalice, I do a working called the blessing cup, or the blessing chalice, where we sit around it and we've done our magical working. Everybody's sitting around in the circle and we're celebrating and talking and everything. But we will do a thing. Traditionally, the chalice is passed from one person to another with a kiss. And you say, blessed be, or never thirst, or something like that. And take a sip, kiss the person, pass it on. But what we do when we've gone through that first round, so you're not kissing and kissing and kissing, going through the kiss is the first round. And then the next rounds, as we refill the chalice, will be like a blessing chalice, where somebody takes it and says, I place in this chalice, and there's a blessing that they want to give to everybody, healing and whatever, and then drink it and pass it on. You put your hand over it, your right hand, to send that in, or you just hold the cup and feel it going from your hands into the chalice. And then everybody from that point on is drinking all of these blessings. And then when you put an offering out, the last that's in the chalice, all those blessings go to the earth as well. As far as tools of earth, the dish is the typical. So if you look at tarot, cups and chalices and cauldrons and all those symbols are there for water. And for earth, it's pentacles or coins or discs or stones. I've seen it stones as well. So all of these things work for pentacles. Classically, what I was trained with was there was the wand, the blade, the cup, and the dish. So the pentagram was an actual dish. And if you look at the symbols of the wand and the blade and the idea of the active principle, these are things that we use. You know, the wand is for outgoing, the blade is for outgoing, and even extension, the wand being a pencil or a paintbrush or something that is outgoing and creative. The cup receives liquid. It's a container. It holds, all right, the symbol of the womb. And wow, that's something giant I forgot with the athame and the wand is, yes, they symbolize the penis, the active principle. The plate as well is something that receives and holds. It's a container. So I don't really have a pentagram that I use. Oh, I dropped it anyway. I don't have a pentagram on my altar. I've got a big one up on my wall, but I don't have a dish that's a pentagram, and I would like to have one. My favorite dish is actually stored away right now, but it's a piece of driftwood that I found that is just a beautiful platter, and it's been through many, many rituals and had lots of sacred archways on it, archway cookies, and bread and cakes and whatever. But I love that it was, actually a piece of wood, an ex-living thing for my pentacle and my dish. So those really come in. It's interesting that the wand and the athame are more active in the magical part of the ritual in executing magic, and the chalice and the plate come in when we're in the celebratory part or the receptive part. Here are the benefits of the magic we've just done. We get to celebrate and be in community with each other and party a little bit and, all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure there's much more to say. But being that I didn't sit down and write down notes and plan things out, I'll probably have those come up in other videos. At any rate, there you have a little bit more on the elements in ritual. Please let me know what your thoughts are down below. Let me know what you do and how you use the tools of water and earth, because they're not, typically the tools are seen as the active things, and these aren't really seen as tools. But let me know how you use them. And you can use the pentagram, on an altar to place things on to consecrate. So if you have new tools or new crystal or something, you'll place it on that pentagram and bless it because it is a symbol of all the elements together. So that's interesting as well, that each of the other ones is a single element. The wand is air, the blade is fire, the cup is water. But the pentagram shows all 5 of them together. That's a symbol of the 5 senses. So, when we talk about physical manifestation, these are things that we can perceive with our senses. So there's a statement of that in the dish. It's where all those other elements come together with earth and spirit to create manifest reality. And I do want to show you my chalice, so hold on a second. Okay. This is the chalice that I got at Starwood when I went down and taught, 6-7 years ago. It's a beautiful thing. It's got... Okay, let's see here. There's the maiden. Can you see her? There we go. There's the mother. There's the crone. And there are the moon phases. There's the new moon. Okay, so we got to turn it the other way. There's the new moon. There's the full moon. There's the waning moon. And the dark moon. I wish there was like a wider space between these two for dark moon, but that's okay. That's totally okay. I love this chalice. When I went to Starwood to teach, I went looking for my chalice because I also on the floor over there is my chalice that I used for many, many years that had a crack in it, and it's ceramic, it's handmade. Not by me, but it had a crack in it, and I was really sad and hoping that it could be fixed, and I looked for a while for somebody that could reglaze it and try to fix it for me before it fell apart, but it finally fell apart. And that's okay. I'll use it in some project. It's going away now. But I went down to Starwood and said, I need to find a new chalice. I really need to find my chalice. And when I got there, there were a lot of vendors that had chalices, but they were like wheel thrown chalices that just looked pretty symmetrical and pretty ordinary. And I looked and I almost bought one that it's like, yeah, I like this one, but there was always the but. And then my friend that went down there with me came one day and said, you have got to go to this one place. It's amazing. And I went and I laid eyes on this, and it's like, there it is. There she is. So, yes, I love, love, love my chalice. I wanted to show you that. So anyway, this has gone on long enough. I do want your comments below. Please, let's engage here. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your practice is. Ask me questions. I love answering your questions, and I love engaging with you because I'm at a small stage now, and there's only 300 and some of you, and I love that there's few enough of us that we can really engage with each other. So please do that. Please like and subscribe and share my videos and set your notifications so you know when I drop a new one. There are tarot videos every Monday. Oracle review every Friday, trying to decide what I want to do on all the rest of the days, because my goal would be to have a video dropping every day. And, one day of the week would be for ritual stuff, one day would be for spell work, one day would be for whatever you guys want. So anyway, here it comes. And I will continue the Art of Ritual series. I thank you so much for hanging out with me in the quiet zone here. And, just for putting your hand up and being a fan. I appreciate that. I'll see you next time. This has been the Zen Witch. Blessed be.